Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar in our mental health series. These webinars explore various mental health topics with expert comments and tips through the lens of international students and newcomers to Canada. They were developed by the Family and Mental Health Division of COSTI in collaboration with Orientation to Ontario and International Student Connect programs to raise awareness and provide support. My name is Ruchika, and I'm the project coordinator at COSTI's International Student Connect program. This webinar is about managing financial stress. In this webinar, you will learn to make better informed choices about how financial insecurity and financial trauma impact mental health. It will also help you develop strategies to cope with financial stress and trauma. To help us understand this topic, we have Vince Pietropaolo, who will talk to us about this topic. Vince is the General Manager of COSTI's Family and Mental Health Services. In his current position, he has worked with the ethno-cultural communities in program design, development, and implementation in the areas of mental health, domestic violence, and problem gambling. Vince currently sits on the York Region Violence Against Women Coordinating Committee, Ontario Resource Group on Gambling, Ethnicity and Culture, the North York Specialized Courts Advisory Committee, and the National Trauma Informed Care Project National Advisory Committee. Vince is a subject matter expert on immigrant and refugee mental health project. He recently designed and implemented the Refugee Mental Health Program at COSTI. Vince has presented extensively on the issue of domestic violence, men's violence, and problem gambling at conferences in the United States and Canada. He has guest lectured at York University and also at Ryerson University. Without further ado, let's begin this webinar. Vince, can you please explain to us what is financial stress and what is its cycle?
Thank you. So financial stress can stem from many factors. The ones that we're most familiar with, of course, is when one loses employment or loses their ability to have a wage or their loss of work, when one experiences escalating debt, so credit cards are maximized, or they have no money in their bank account. And of course, even people who budget well, you can have unexpected expenses that definitely can cause one to experience financial stress. And this one could have one of these factors or a combination of many of these factors. And these are generally the most likely forms of financial stress. Students, of course, when we look at coming from a new country, perhaps having a budget, but with limits on their budget, of course, can experience escalating debt because of unexpected expenses. And also they may have difficulty gaining employment to support them while they're involved in their academic careers. So these definitely will cause stress in an individual. Financial worry is also another cause of financial stress. And really what this is that people are worried about their financial situation, how they're going to make payments, how they're going to lower their debt, or the anticipation of some unexpected expense that they're not ready to deal with. Now, the American Psychological Association found that 72% of Americans, and this is an American study, feel stressed out about money at least at some time in their life. So this is really almost 3 out of 4 individuals worry about how they're going to make ends meet, worry about debt, and worry about their overall financial picture. And this may not be different to students who leave behind perhaps comforts, who may come from financial stability and then investing and coming to a new country into an education can leave them with debt. So they may worry about how they're going to pay that debt, how they're going to make ends meet. So these are perhaps worries about their financial status. And of course, what's complicated financial issues and financial stress is more recently with COVID and the impact of the pandemic, meaning that there's more economic difficulties, less opportunity for work, um, and even more individuals facing financial struggles and hardship. So excessive worry about your finances and meeting financial obligations, and of course, debt are um, are issues that people worry about and are concerned about, which cause financial stress. And when you asked about the cycle of financial stress, really what we have, um, and where most people experience difficulty, is in managing money that leads to financial problems, either not budgeting appropriately, um, overspending, or buying items that perhaps they may not necessarily need. And this is usually luxury items, or of course, facing what we had said earlier, some unexpected expenses that were not in a budget. So, um, but if we look at the difficulty in managing and keeping to a budget, and that of course creates financial stress, financial problems, and we know that when you're under stress, um, and the stress becomes chronic and the worry about money becomes excessive and how you're going to manage and how you're going to overcome a particular financial issue, this of course adversely impacts mental health. It could lead to anxiety, it could lead to depression, and as one further declines in their mental health state, it becomes more and more difficult again to manage money. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, often we might see people avoid dealing with debt, um, not making payments, collectors calling. So this increases the level of stress related to finances. It adversely impacts our ability to function, to concentrate, to focus, perhaps to work and on a budget or work at least on some way to manage the debt. And this leads to more difficulty in managing, and the cycle sort of continues. And this is what we see in terms of a cycle when one is experiencing financial stress. So keep in mind that financial stress can impact your mental faculties, which then impact your ability to manage the financial issues, and it keeps kind of circulating. So what is now, and if we looked at how financial stress impacts us with respect to our psychological functioning and our well-being, we know that often when people experience debt and worry about making ends meet financially, that they can have difficulty sleeping, have insomnia, and the excessive worry about unpaid bills or increasing debt, or the loss of income can definitely affect our sleep. It can disrupt our appetite, and of course, anxiety we know does that. People tend to overeat or even skip meals to save money. So even the way that one would approach saving money would be to cut out on the necessities of life. So of course, this is how financial stress affects our physical well-being as well. Now, living under the cloud of money problems can leave people feeling down, hopeless, isolated, alone, and it really, really makes it difficult to concentrate or make decisions, because one of the most difficult um, issues that come about with financial stress is this feeling perhaps of shame. So it's not easy to disclose that one is having money problems. They don't want to feel judged, don't want to feel stigmatized in some way. So this, of course, cavalcades and leads to increased anxiety and even depression. So all the worrying about unpaid bills or loss of income definitely triggers a certain amount of anxiety, procrastination, and avoidance in terms of how to deal. Often I hear stories of collection agencies calling, banks calling, credit card companies calling, and people just avoiding, not responding at all, and not wanting to disclose or get help. And the situation intensifies and becomes worse. And of course, it leads to mental health distress. Now, money is often cited as the most common issue couples argue about and wear away at the foundation of even strong relationships. So when we look at even relationships, and this is marital relationships or couples that cohabitate and have an intimate relationship, money is often the allocation of money, how to spend money, how to deal with debt. These are ongoing issues that create tension and stress if they're not resolved or dealt with in a healthy way. So these are some of the impacts. So it affects mental health, anxiety, depression. It affects you also relationally in terms of increased tension and disagreements and arguments about how to deal with money. So um, also, worries can also cause you to isolate, again, because of the stigma or because you don't have money to pay for social events or to go out for a particular coffee or a restaurant. So again, this makes the situation worse because as you isolate from people that you support, the people that have supported you in the past, or we know how important socialization is to increase your well-being. So you're cutting yourself off from social activities either because you don't have money or because of financial worry. Again, increases the vulnerability and the risk for developing serious mental health issues. Um, we talked briefly about how financial stress can lead to physical ailments, but it can lead to headaches, gastrointestinal problems like constipation, even diarrhea. It can lead chronically over long periods of time. That stress can cause and influence your body in ways that make you susceptible for diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. These are some ways that financial stress impacts our physical health. Again, often people, before they go to help and look at ways to manage and cope, if you're managing in negative ways, often it's by using alcohol, by abusing prescription drugs or illegal drugs. Often people chase and gamble as a way to recoup or to get out of debt. And of course, this is a high risk behavior that often leads to more debt and more financial problems. Overeating, of course, and putting on weight or not eating at all. So money worries can also lead to self-harm or thoughts of suicide. And we see this in students where, again, they have limited opportunities to get employment because of either workload or because of visa or don't have the work permit. And also because perhaps they don't have that rigorous um, budgeting skills to maintain and stick to a budget. And on top of not only worrying about academic performance, you're also now worrying about financial stress, which can impact the ability to perform in class. So these are some unhealthy coping ways. Now I want to talk about perhaps some healthy ways to cope with financial stress. So if you are experiencing financial stress, the most important thing again to do is to follow a routine that promotes, again, a sense of purpose and normalcy. And that is that when you eat well and get enough sleep and you engage in physical activities, it promotes better mental health. And if your well-being and mental health is well, you're more able to think clearly, to focus, to concentrate, and think about ways of tackling any financial issue that you may experience, whether it is debt um, that comes from an unexpected financial burden, or whether it is to relook at a budget and rethink about ways that you can reduce expenses and make decisions that can better improve your financial situation. So this is why eating well, sleeping and exercise clears up your mind a bit. So again, avoiding drugs and alcohol is very important because again, you have clear focus to deal with the issue at hand. And of course, it helps with negative emotions temporarily. But in the long run, alcohol and drugs may make you feel worse. So often what I see with people dealing with financial stress, they use alcohol, they use drugs as a way to avoid, as a way to cope, and it gives some temporary relief, but it develops easily into unhealthy habits, and it doesn't allow you really to tackle and to deal with whatever the financial issue is. So getting professional advice is important, and there are many organizations that offer free counseling on how to deal with any financial issue or problem you may be experiencing, whether it's debt, whether it's creating and sticking to a budget, one budget that works with you that will eliminate or at least work towards clearing debt, whether it's helping you with finding employment at work, or whether how to communicate with creditors, or any other forms of opportunities that exist around financial assistance, because these can be really, really helpful. So it's really about getting the help to organize, to think about the best approach to how to deal with any financial issue that arises during the time that you are in your academic journey and in your academic career. So again, reaching out is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength and a sign that you're ready to deal with the particular issue so you can reduce the mental stress and the mental duress, and you can focus on academics. So Credit Counseling Canada is a wonderful organization that offers professional advice for individuals who are dealing with debt, um, how to manage a budget, finding employment, and of course, communicating with creditors, but also to help you look at perhaps other ways to get relief from your financial difficulties. What's important that when you do seek professional advice is that you are open and about your financial situation, that you reveal your difficulties, and that you know that the person that you are working with will not judge you, that you will not be criticized. You will be offered help in order to manage whatever the financial issue is. And this is really no different than when you speak to your doctor, that you are open, that you are accurate about your situation, because that's the best way one can help. And remember, you're speaking to a professional who's not there to judge you in any way or to criticize you, but to offer supportive advice, good coping systems, and really help you with how to create a budget and manage a budget so you can, again, the key is if you reduce and eliminate this stress, then you can focus on the most important issue, which is academic performance and academics. So talking about your worries can help you make sense of what you're facing and also encourage you and motivate you to get a handle on the financial stress that you may be under. So again, sometimes the causes of your financial difficulties may lie elsewhere, such as gambling or what's called retail therapy. And what that means is often when you're under stress, and especially when you feel that you're under stress because of academics or because you're feeling lonely or isolated, we often see this where gambling becomes a release and a way to deal with stress. Again, if you're gambling and you're doing it recreationally and you can set limits and you can afford it, it's one thing. But if you're chasing losses or you're engaging in gambling activities that become problematic and increase your debt or create financial stress, that's when you should seek professional help. Or often people shop as a way to relieve stress, and that's fine. Again, if you are shopping within your budget and you are setting limits. But if you're continuously shopping and you are buying items and products that you don't need, but just to sort of feel that instant relief. However, it's creating money issues. And we've seen this with people who often use shopping and develop habitual dependency on shopping as a way to deal with other stressors. And they may come from, especially what makes students vulnerable, loneliness, isolation, or academic difficulties, or performance in academic issues. So these are all different ways. So keep in mind that gambling and shopping are ways that actually can increase your stress if they are not limited and if they get out of control. So to prevent the same financial problems reoccurring, it's important you address both the underlying issue and the money troubles it creates in your life. So again, it's important that you deal with the urge, for instance, to gamble or the urge to continuously shop and what it is that needs to be addressed, as well as what the behavior caused. So the consequences perhaps of either spending too much money, not having a budget, or accumulating debt then increases the mental health issues. So Connex Ontario is a wonderful resource that will help you link to counselors who are experts on any gambling issue or what we call process addictions like shopping, like gaming, that where you're also needing money to continue. So Connex Ontario offers services in numerous languages if English becomes a problem. And keep in mind that, again, you will never be judged or criticized, and you're dealing with professionals who are not interested in perhaps any judgment on behavior, but on trying to find a remedy and support to overcome the particular stress and issue in your life. So again, practice gratitude on a daily basis. That is one of the key things. And it's inspirational, and it helps you when you are facing money worries and financial uncertainty. It's easy to focus again on all the attention on the negatives, but if you're practicing gratitude, looking at what is positive, what is healthy in your life, it is an important refresher and a way to restructure. So you can help to deal with your issues or avoid getting into the kinds of financial problems that one may be susceptible or vulnerable to. Now, you don't have to ignore reality. You can take a moment to appreciate the positives in your life. It doesn't mean that you create imaginary fantasies, but we all in our life have positive things and that occur or to be grateful for, whether it's our health, whether it's our family, and whether it's all the opportunities that are offered in our life. So keep that in mind. It's really important to practice the gratitude. It kind of redirects our focus on what is important. Practicing self-compassion is also very important. As you review your finances, remember that anyone can get into financial difficulties, and it's not some kind of character flaw. Often when we're under stress, we often make impulsive decisions. When we feel under stress, perhaps we are looking for quick fix solutions and perhaps make decisions that are not well informed. So anybody can be vulnerable, especially when we have other stresses in our life. So focus on the aspects you can control as you look on to move forward. And getting the help will allow you to refocus and assume some kind of control. Avoiding and procrastinating is a way to not have control, increases anxiety, and it only leads to longer ways of dealing with an issue. So don't get derailed by setbacks. We're all human, no matter how tight your plan is, and you may stray from your goal, and something unexpected can happen to derail you, but it is important, again, by practicing gratitude, by working with professionals to refocus and get you back on your journey. So there is help, especially when you're facing financial distress. You don't want to avoid it or procrastinate and get to a crisis point. It's a lot easier to manage issues and to prevent issues when they're in their infancy, or when they're just beginning, or when they're in the middle, as to oppose when they reach a crisis. Anyway, that ends our webinar on financial stress, and I'm going to hand it over now to the program coordinator.
Thank you, Vince, for a thorough presentation on managing financial stress. We gained a lot from this presentation. And now I'm going to briefly talk about the programs which brought you this webinar. The Orientation to Ontario program is a bilingual program which is funded by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada and also by the Government of Ontario. This program has been designed to expedite and facilitate the settlement of newcomers to Ontario and help them make better informed choices. And also the International Student Connect program. This offers settlement information and orientation to international students who are pursuing a post-secondary education in Ontario. The Ontario Ministry of Children's and Community and Social Services is funding the International Student Connect project to provide support to international students and their families. COSTI Immigrant Services manages the O2O and the ISE programs. COSTI is a multicultural community-based agency with 18 locations in Toronto, the region of Peel and York region. COSTI provides services in more than 60 languages, and last year over 40,000 clients were served, which included newcomers and refugees in the Greater Toronto area. And thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar. We would also like to acknowledge Vince and his team, the COSTI's Family and Mental Health Center, to help in developing and presenting this webinar. And please join us for our other webinars in this series. We have them on our websites, and we also have many more resources. You can contact us on the emails and the phone numbers which were listed on the slides, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.